Dana, I want to ask you a favor. How has your marriage been lately? You know, niece to niece-in-law kind of thing. Shouldn't we keep each other up to speed on these things?
Why are you suddenly asking me that, Alice? It's not like we've exactly been close over the years.
Well, water under the bridge, right? Family is family. And I care about the love life of my niece. Isn't that normal for an aunt? Even a slightly older than average aunt?
Even though you are my aunt-in-law, you're only 5 years older than me. You didn't even care about me before. That's a little strange coming from someone who suddenly wants to pry into my marriage.
Anyway, I'm still older than you, right? Respect for your elders and all that. Speaking of which, I heard that you and Branson are moving in with my parents, right? I mean, it's wonderful you two are back in the country after all this time, but isn't it a bit much? 2 young lovebirds living with 2 elderly people? Don't you feel a bit cramped? A bit tired of taking care of them?
Why would you think that way, Alice? Branson's grandparents and I have always had a good relationship. We video chat all the time, even when we are living abroad. There's no problem living together. It's more like a reunion than a burden. Besides, my parents both live overseas, so living with his grandparents is reassuring for both me and Branson. It's nice to have family around after all these years.
Really? Family, huh?
Branson's parents passed away when he was young, so returning home makes him feel the warmth of the family he never really had. It's heartwarming to see how much he cherishes his grandparents.
Is that so? Hearing you say this, I really admire it. It makes me wonder what a real family feels like. You know? The kind that sticks together through thick and thin.
Really? You rarely take the initiative to talk to me, Alice. Is there something on your mind? Do you really care about me and Branson wanting to be close to family? Or is there another reason you seem so interested?
You're really smart, Dana. I just got divorced.
What? Really? Oh my gosh, Alice, are you serious?
How could I joke about something like that? Actually, it's only been 2 days. Today I finally completed the divorce proceedings.
What? Today? But Alice, that's such an important matter. Why didn't you tell us? We're family, even if we haven't always been the closest. Shouldn't you lean on your family during a time like this?
As soon as I finished the divorce procedure, I came straight here to tell you guys. It feels so strange to be officially single again. Well, it's not just strange, it's unlucky. I was kicked out of the house by my ex-husband. Later on, I had to find a new place to live. It's annoying, to say the least. But mostly, it's just terrifying.
What? Weren't you two very close before? How can that be? Why did he kick you out of the house?
Forget it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Thinking about that bastard makes me sick. At first, I thought about moving back in with my parents. However, I heard that you and Branson also moved back.
Yes, although the house is a bit old. There's only 1 empty room. That is enough for me and Branson.
So, I just wanted to ask if there will be any conflicts when living with them. If there are conflicts and you can't live happily, I'll move back and live with my parents. But I didn't expect my nephew to say the 2 of you could live together in harmony. You and your husband can have a close relationship with my parents, which makes me very impressed.
So, do you have any upcoming plans? Are you planning to find a new apartment or stay with friends temporarily?
Why should I spend money on such a useless thing? As for staying friends, I don't want to depend on others.
So, are you going to stay at the hotel?
I made it clear. Don't you understand?
What do you mean?
Of course. You and Branson have to move out so I can move in.
What?
Actually, I didn't want to say it so directly. At first I thought you would complain to me that living with the elderly is very troublesome. Then I could suggest that you move out and live somewhere else. But that plan failed. So I only have to be straightforward. I've already packed my bags and today I will move back to live there.
What?
You have to understand that it's my parents' house. So it's natural for me to return there to live. You are just my niece. You don't have the right to refuse me. In short, you should quickly pack your things and get out of there.
Is that too unreasonable? How can I pack my things and leave right now? Where do you want me to move to?
What does it have to do with me where you move? Why should I care about that? My parents' house is my house too. I just want to take back what belongs to me.
You are crossing your lines.
Okay, stop complaining to me. After you and Branson finish packing, don't forget to notify me.
Grandma, are you too busy right now? I've got something very important to tell you and I could really use your advice.
Don't scare me, honey. Is everything all right? Today there aren't too many customers in the store, so take a seat and tell me what's on your mind.
It's about Auntie Alice. I know we haven't always been the closest, but you have to promise me you won't get too upset, okay?
Huh? Alice? What's she done now? Don't tell me she's gotten herself mixed up in another one of her crazy schemes.
It's not exactly a scheme, Grandma, but it is important. Has she contacted you recently? She usually only calls when she needs something.
Like clockwork, that woman. I don't know, maybe a week or two ago. She said something about needing another loan for business expenses. Of course, I told her where to go.
Actually, she just contacted me this afternoon.
Really? That's not like her at all. That woman wouldn't know a phone from a doorknob unless it involved getting her hands on some cash. What did she want this time?
Well, first she asked me a strange question about whether you were having any difficulties with me and Branson moving in with you. Then she told me that this morning, Grandma, she finalized her divorce proceedings.
What? She divorced? Alice? Divorced? Why in the world wouldn't she tell me that?
I don't know, Grandma. She didn't seem to be in the best state of mind. So you had no idea she was planning on moving in here?
Move in here? The woman hasn't even stepped foot in this house for the past 10 years. Now she expects me to take her in? She's got some nerve.
That's right. Me and Branson are in the last room here. She told us to pack up and leave immediately so she can move in.
What? Does she dare to ask you and Branson to move out? Is she crazy? This is my house. She has no right to kick you two out on the street.
I'm so speechless, Grandma. I didn't want to upset Branson because he was the one who suggested moving in with you. He'd been talking about wanting a close-knit family for years and finally feeling that with you and Grandpa. The thought of him being uprooted again, it breaks my heart. I don't want to disappoint him, but I also can't believe Alice would just waltz in here and expect us to leave.
Don't worry one bit, honey. I'll take care of this. Alice has a lot of nerve, barging in here after all these years and making demands. I'm going to call your Uncle Joe right now. He'll set her straight. Strong male voice is exactly what that woman needs to hear some sense. Even if she wants to make a fuss, I'll never let her push you and Branson around. This is your home too, and some good will come out of this situation. One way or another, someone will be moving out and it won't be you two.
Grandma, I'm really sorry about all this. If I hadn't moved in with Branson, none of these things would have happened. You and Grandpa deserve peace and quiet, not this drama.
What are you talking about? You know that the moment you and Branson decided to move in, your grandpa and I were over the moon. We hadn't had this much joy in the house in years. It's a shame things have to be so difficult with your aunt. But don't blame yourself for a second.
But I just feel terrible. Alice is your biological daughter. Currently, she has nowhere to go. And you and Grandpa can't just stand by and watch her become homeless, can you?
Don't you go feeling sorry for that woman, Dana. When your grandpa was hospitalized last year and needed someone to take care of him day and night, where was Alice? She didn't even care to take a visit, let alone an offer. Had she ever fulfilled her responsibilities as a daughter all these years? She's made her choices, and now she needs to face the consequences. She's a grown woman. If divorce is her decision, then she must take responsibility for it. I would rather move out of the house than live with your grandpa in his tiny apartment. Then we have to live under the same roof as your selfish aunt.
Wait a minute. Grandpa was hospitalized? Why didn't I know about this?
A few years ago, when you and someone were studying abroad, he suddenly became unconscious and he had to be hospitalized. At that time, Alice was also home, but she didn't have any intention of visiting. She lives here because she doesn't have to pay rent. If it wasn't for the neighbors who discovered something was wrong and called the ambulance for help, I don't know what would have happened. When Alice heard that Grandpa was hospitalized, she quickly packed her bags and moved out that night.
What? Why would she do that?
Do I need to say more? Because she didn't want to take care of us. If she really cares about us, how can she stand by and watch? At that time, the store was bustling with customers, but I still had to close for a while and go to the hospital to take care of Grandpa every day. I called Alice and asked for help, even if it was only a few days. She thought that I only called her to come home and do the housework, but she hasn't been back since.
Why didn't you call me at that time?
At that time, you were still in school, and I didn't want to make you worry. Anyway, your auntie moved out. Is it that good? While living here, she not only couldn't help, but she often stole my money. Even her clothes were washed by me.
It's really too much.
Only when you and Branson moved back here, my husband and I feel relieved. Although young people today don't want to live with the elderly.
Branson and I actually had a very enjoyable time here. Branson always tells me that he has no regrets in his life.
I also feel relieved when I hear you say those things. Don't worry. I'll take care of your aunt's affairs.
Thank you so much. Hey, open the door. I've been calling and knocking for 10 minutes and it's freezing out here.
Ugh. You're so noisy this morning, Dana. Don't you know how to ring a doorbell like a civilized person? I don't want the neighbors to complain about the racket you're making.
Are you crazy? I was sleeping peacefully in the guest room when you barged in yesterday and practically chased me away. What do you want from me?
All I want is for you to get away from my house quickly. And don't come back.
I have never promised you that I would leave, Alice. Why are you acting so dramatic?
You have no choice in the matter. This is my old house. And I told you to get out. You must agree and leave obediently. Don't think for a second that you can just waltz in and take over.
You think I'm some kind of pushover? Easily bullied and intimidated? Think again.
Because of you, I have been wandering around like a lost soul for the past 4 days. Hotels are expensive. And I can't believe you'd put your own aunt in this position.
Wait a minute. Where you live has nothing to do with me. You made your choices, you got divorced, and now you have to deal with the consequences.
How dare you talk to me like that? Let me tell you something, young lady. This is my house. I bought it with my own money years ago. You and Branson are guests here. And guests don't get to dictate the rules. You have no right to live here.
Well, newsflash, Alice. You are not welcome in this house either. Grandma told me everything. You haven't set foot in here in a decade, and now you expect to just move in and kick us out?
You're making up nonsense. Are you trying to provoke me? How dare you tell my mother that I threatened you? I would never do such a thing.
Isn't that true, Auntie Alice? You conveniently forgot to mention that little detail when you barged in here demanding we leave? Suddenly, this house you haven't stepped foot in for 10 years is your sacred territory? But where were you when Grandpa was fighting for his life and Grandma needed all the support she could get? Funny how amnesia sets in when it's convenient.
So what? You're intentionally provoking me, aren't you? This is clearly my house. The deed is in my name, and the mortgage payments came out of my bank account every month. But you and Branson have taken it over like squatters, living rent-free, enjoying all the comforts while I've been out there struggling on my own.
If this really is your house, then why did you move all your belongings out on the night Grandpa was rushed to the hospital? Have you ever shown any gratitude to them for taking you in and taking care of you all those years? And now you dare to come back home with your tail between your legs, expecting them to welcome you with open arms and kick us out in the street?
Because I am their daughter. The precious daughter of theirs who got divorced and abandoned. Shouldn't they help me in my time of need?
Then you should have informed them beforehand, shouldn't you? Instead of leaving them hanging while they were worried sick about you, wondering where you were and if you were even alive.
You're so cunning. Playing the innocent victim. I am willing to give you time to pack and move out, but don't expect any sympathy from me. I didn't expect you to be so deceitful. Playing tricks on my mother and making her think that I threatened you? Did you and Branson come back here just to freeload at my parents' house?
Don't make baseless accusations like that. I'm not someone who doesn't have a job.
Your job is to stay at home all day and then eat and sleep, right? At first I thought you were very talented. Everything seemed to be made up, right? You deceived your husband with sweet words to win over his parents so that you could all enjoy happiness together at my parents' house.
Why do you keep making up things that aren't true about me?
I don't care, let me tell you. Don't bother me anymore. This is my house. From now on, I will leave here freely without having to pay rent.
What?
You know how tiring it is to get a divorce? Why is life so unfair? Why can you and Branson live happily while I can't? Why do I have to suffer? I got kicked out of the house and quit my job anyway. Finally, I can rest and enjoy happiness.
What? You don't even want a job?
So what? I've been working hard for a long time, so I need a break.
You are ridiculous.
You should thank me for letting you live happily in that house. I didn't move out. How could you have had a chance? I've been very polite.
Let me repeat. Branson and I are not useless people. We are all working.
Don't make excuses anymore. Neighbors have already said it. Who would believe your lies? I'm about to throw all of your luggage out. If you don't leave soon, I'll turn all your things into the garbage. If there are nice clothes, I'll just keep them for myself.
Okay, this family will move out.
What?
If you don't want to listen to me, I won't be polite anymore. Do you really want to live in this old house? All right, then we'll comply. Not only me and Branson, but also grandparents will move out to live separately.
What are you talking about?
Early this morning, Branson took grandparents hiking. They're probably on their way back now. I will inform them. And we're considering a new house.
What? A new house?
Me and Branson are moving out, as not impossible. However, I don't want my grandparents to live with you. So I decided that no matter where I moved, I would live with my grandparents.
What? You're planning to take my parents away?
Isn't that good news? From now on, you can own that old house. No one will bother you anymore, and finally, you can enjoy happiness.
How dare you take my parents away?
Didn't I already tell you I brought them to live with us? Finding a house now is not difficult. If we can't find one, we can stay at a hotel. This is also the wish of Grandma and Grandpa. They said they always wanted to live with me and Branson. The only condition is not to inform you so that you can bother us.
How can this be possible?
Why not? I wanted to say it before, but you didn't let me. Both Branson and I are not normal part-time employees.
What?
Branson is an engineer, and I am an interpreter. We only need a computer to get the job done. So most of the time we work from home so we can take care of Grandma and Grandpa. The neighbors like to talk behind my back. That is their right. Branson and I are used to it, and we don't want to explain it to them.
You and Branson are not useless?
It's okay if others don't understand. As long as grandparents support it to make us feel comfortable working. They volunteered to cook. In return, all other expenses of Grandma and Grandpa will be our responsibility.
What?
Branson and I make money by our hard work. Because we are freelancers, we can work while traveling. Since we moved to live with Grandma and Grandpa, the four of us have traveled more and more.
I don't believe it.
Whether you believe it or not is up to you. I don't need to lie about these things.
Even if you move out, it's okay. Anyway, I will continue to live here.
Do you think you can stay there after we move out? That old house belongs to me and Branson.
What?
Grandma and Grandpa had wanted to sell that house for a long time, but the procedures are very complicated. So they transferred the house to us.
How? They really transferred ownership of the house to you?
By the way, Grandma asked me to tell you it's okay if you want to live there, but you can only stay there for a few days at most because that house will soon have a new owner. I'm telling you, that's my house. Don't you dare to throw my stuff away. I will definitely call the police.
Dana, are you planning to sell this house for real? Someone from the real estate company rang the doorbell and asked to talk to me. What's going on?
Didn't I already talk to you about this, Alice? Do you think I would stoop so low as to spare money and hire some stranger to deceive you? Grandpa and Grandma are visionaries, you know that. They've been saying for years that the price of houses in this area is increasing like crazy, and this is the perfect opportunity to cash in. We can sell it at such a high price. It'll be practically criminal.
Can you really sell this dilapidated house for a high price? It's practically falling apart at the seams. Leaking roof, creaky floorboards, the whole 9 yards. Are you sure this realtor isn't some kind of con artist?
Believe me, Auntie, the only con artist here is you. Grandpa and Grandma are ecstatic about this whole thing. They plan to use the money to decorate their new home, a brand new place with modern amenities and none of the creaks and groans of this old relic.
Wait a minute. A brand new house? They're just going to abandon this place after all these years?
Look, the point is, they're happy, and that's all that matters. You should be happy for them too, shouldn't you?
Happy? Well, of course I'm happy for them. But honestly, Dana, can you really sell this ramshackle of a house for a high price?
Whether you believe it or not isn't the point, Alice. The house is being sold, and that's that.
Dana, you have already sold this house, haven't you? Can't I at least have a share of the profits? After all, I am also a member of this family. Even if I haven't been the most present member in recent years.
Don't you feel ashamed to say that, Auntie?
Actually, the reason for the divorce was because my husband found out about my affair. He asked for a large compensation that I couldn't afford.
So what, Alice?
I plan to come back home and take care of my parents, to make amends for all the lost time. Because I really am desperate, Dana.
Are you really going to take care of your parents? Or are you just going to look for a free roof over your head and a place to crash until you get back on your feet?
Of course I'm going to take care of them. After all, I'm their precious daughter, their flesh and blood. Now I am trying to live a righteous life, to be the daughter they deserve. You just bought a house, and you still have money to decorate it. Helping me with a small proportion of the profits from selling this house shouldn't be too difficult, right? Think of it as a down payment on my newfound dedication to being a good daughter.
Although the house had been transferred to me, it wasn't exactly a purchase. Grandpa and Grandma simply signed it over to me so they could downsize and use the money for their new retirement home. But I can't just spend the money however I want. It's designated for their new life.
So how this money will be used depends on my parents? You should have told me earlier. If I talked to them, explained my situation, they wouldn't refuse me for sure. Great. I'll go find my mom right now. I'm not greedy to that extent, Dana. Just a little financial assistance to get me back on my feet. Just divide it equally.
Divide? Let me tell you something, Alice. I won't give you a single penny. Not a dime. Not a cent.
Huh?
Do you really expect us to forgive you and compromise with you again, even though you're our daughter? Blood may be thicker than water, Alice, but even family ties have a breaking point. Don't just expect us to roll over and accept your outrageous demands after all these years of estrangement.
Huh? Mom, are you talking right now? I haven't spoken a word about forgiveness or compromise. I just came here to see if there was any way I could help out with Dad. Maybe even move in and lend a hand around the house.
Help out? That's a rich one. We just saw a new house and are preparing for dinner. The last thing we need is the added stress of having you underfoot. Seeing you harass Dana with your sob story made my blood pressure rise. I have thoroughly investigated your divorce with your husband, you know.
Investigated? What do you mean investigated?
Don't play coy with me, Alice. We heard it all from your ex-husband himself. He treated you like a queen, showered you with love and affection. And what did you do in return? Not only did you not appreciate it, but you also had affairs with multiple people at the same time.
How could you know this? This is a private matter between me and my ex.
Private matter? Are you also afraid of being caught doing such shameful things in our home? You are absolutely a disgrace to this house, Alice. Do you know how disappointed your father is in you? He hasn't been able to sleep properly since he found out about the truth.
Listen to me, Mom. This is just a misunderstanding.
Misunderstanding? All of those photos with you with those men, just a misunderstanding? The ones your ex so kindly forwarded to us? You even want us to compensate you financially after all of this? Why could I have been so naive to think I raised a decent human being?
Don't scold me anymore, okay? I really need your help now. I promise I will listen to you obediently and do whatever you say. Can you at least send me some money right now?
Even if I had a penny left to my name, Alice, I would never give it to you. Not a single cent.
What? Mom, are you serious? You wouldn't help your own daughter?
My daughter? The woman I spent countless nights rocking and singing lullabies to? The little girl who used to come running to me with scraped knees and a tear-stained face? That woman seems to have vanished years ago, Alice. All that's left is a stranger who waltzes in here after years of neglect, expecting a handout.
But, Mom,
No buts, Alice. You made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences.
Please, Mom. You have to understand. I'm desperate. I have nowhere else to go.
Desperate? Is that what you call it? What about Dad, Alice? Have you even stopped to consider how his health has deteriorated since you abandoned him?
I know I was wrong. I truly am sorry.
Apologies are cheap, Alice. What we need now are actions. And right now, the only action I could think of is focusing on the future of this family, not dwelling on the mistakes of the past. Speaking of which, Dana's child is due any day now. There will be a lot of expenses, diapers, formula, clothes.
What? Dana's child? Is she pregnant?
That's right. I'll soon have a grandchild.
Please, I'm your daughter. How can you be so heartless?
Yes, you are my biological daughter, but you've never cared about me or your dad. Perhaps it's because in my past life I committed a lot of sins, and that's why I gave birth to such a scumbag as you. If it weren't for Branson and Dana suggesting that we live together, we would still be suffering from the shame you brought us.
How can you say that? Dana and the others are just trying to take advantage of you. Why are you treating me like this?
Your life has nothing to do with us. Don't worry, we will never let you know our new address. Learn to live independently and do well.
Alice borrowed money at a high interest rate to pay for the damages she caused and had to work multiple jobs to pay off the debt. She stayed at other people's homes because she didn't want to rent a place, but eventually had to resort to appearing in nightclubs. When Branson's grandparents heard about this, they were completely disappointed in Alice and cut off all ties with her. Within a few months, Branson and Dana had a child, and the grandparents were overjoyed. Their family of 5 is now living a happy and fulfilling life.